Awesome. And that's okay. That's the monkey brain is a part of the experience too, right?
Mine for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. So today we're going to have the first half is going to be me doing the question and answer. And then the second half, you get Julie helping you
Yay.
with the video review. So what questions do we have for EMDR regarding EMDR?
I went first last time, Michelle. Do you want to go first this time?
Sure, not a problem.
Not it.
One of the questions that I had that I tried to watch the Deb had a seminar or webinar today, and unfortunately the work emails just kept flooding as she was doing it. But I was like, oh, but I think they're recorded because it sounded like it was answering one of my questions. So I know that during the training we were taught, or I don't know if taught is the word, but sort of shown that there's different scales that you can use before you start with a client about the disassociation. And but there was also a part in the training, if I understood it correctly, that somebody had asked a question, and it was kind of like that whatever the results are, you could still do the work with a client. And we didn't really, during the training, didn't really do any of those scales. I know a lot of them are very lengthy. And I was just curious because I haven't done any of them with my clients.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was just curious, how, or is it okay? And obviously you just said it's okay, but it's okay not to do it. But I noticed a little bit of what I got to watch today. And again, it was unfortunately in and out, and I do plan on maybe, seeing if it was recorded. Kind of being able to, during a session, bring to light when somebody's disassociating, right? So from what I understood from what she was saying today, it was kind of like, let's say someone brings up something about a trauma, and then she said something about, then all of a sudden when she's doing the processing, they might say, oh, I start to see red, or I start to see blue. And she's just like, she was saying that when she first did it, she was like, what the heck is that? But now she knows that that actually could be sort of a, dissociating. And she mentioned, which I thought she mentioned, to kind of bring that to the attention of the client to say, could this be, like that time where you sort of disconnected, back to the trauma. And I was just wondering really the best way to do that, because I guess, again, I only watched part of it. And I guess I was concerned that if I start to notice it and you're bringing it back, what if they're not there? Like if they didn't connect that, like, is there any harm, like you said, in bringing up whatever is happening for them, that it might be connected to some of their trauma or what they're bringing up? Because in a sense that, it's not, it's how they cope. It's not necessarily a bad, I guess I'm wondering, like, the reasoning to bring it to their attention, especially if you haven't done the scale.
Yeah. So as I hear you speaking, I'm just noticing maybe a potential shift for you. And so I'm wondering what's underneath what you're saying.
What's underneath what I'm saying?
Yeah. What's coming up for you?
Honestly, just curiosity. I just feel like I myself feel like even though the days that I have to do this with Dwayne, for whatever reason, I'm so anxious, which is ridiculous, but I am. But when I'm practicing with my own clients, much more comfortable, kind of like what we spoke about the last time. Like I can just relax. It's not a big deal, just to go with it. But I guess for me, I'm just curious, what's the benefit for the client? Like, before I would say I was afraid. I would say that there was fear before. I don't have that fear anymore. I just want to understand more so that I know if I'm bringing up something that it's helpful to them, and how would it be helpful to them?
And what would that understanding provide for you? Mm,
It would provide for me, like, knowing how to help them, that if they're disconnecting at a certain point during the processing, to understand how is that helpful, like knowing that that was helpful for them in the past, how is it helpful for them now? And then how do I bring them back? Right? Because isn't that the point? We're supposed to bring them back, or no?
So if a client was to, when you're doing talk therapy, disconnect from the conversation, what would you do in that situation?
In traditional talk therapy,
Yep.
I'd probably let it go a little bit to see where it would go, to have a curiosity as to like where they, what comes up for them, where they might need to go. And if I felt that it was distracting to sort of maybe the goal or objective of the session, I might say, I'm noticing that when this comes up, you're talking about something completely different. What's going on for you? Is this too uncomfortable? Is this, where I might fill in the blanks in talk therapy, whereas EMDR, I feel like you don't fill in those blanks. Like I noticed that one time, I don't know if Dwayne noticed it, but one time while we were doing the work, he wanted to say something and I was saying something at the same time, and then I just kept talking, and I recognized that I needed to shut up, and it was too late and I didn't. And so so with the talk therapy, I might fill in the blanks. Like, are you doing that because you're a little uncomfortable? Is this what's going on or whatever? Versus just asking the question, I'm noticing this, what's going on for you?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm hearing I'm hearing some pieces come up, right? So one part is like, I want to know to make sure I can keep my client safe.
Yeah.
And then another piece I think is checking in with myself and what's coming up for me now, right? Like Dwayne says something and then I find myself talking more than I could have just pulled back.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is a part of this consultation process, right? That's why I asked you the question before we go into the answer to your question, because we really want to spend that time to reflect on like what's going on for me, because I am just as important tool in my session as anything else. Because sometimes when we find curiosity or wanting to understand or feeling responsible for our client, it's more about us than it is about that client.
Yeah, I noticed, it's interesting that you say that, because I noticed today, during the webinar, one of the things that I did hear Deb say was, a lot of it is about you, meaning the clinician, and that if you're not okay, that will seep into your session. So recognizing that, stuff might be coming up for you, or to recognize that if the session doesn't go, yes, as well, I don't know what the term to say, as you maybe had thought about it, that after the session and you're sort of reflecting back to kind of check in with yourself, because you might have brought something into that session that you don't even realize, which might be why the person's not getting to their zero or not being able to answer a question in the way that you are thinking that they might answer,
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I want to say that, and I'm going to put the DES in that's the one you can plug numbers in online and it can actually score it for you right there.
Okay.
I want to say that Deb is extremely skilled in EMDR. So that's the one piece to keep in mind when you're listening to Deb and you're like, oh, wow, how did she know to do that?
Yeah.
She was trained by Francine Shapiro.
Right.
So understanding how long ago she was trained and how long that means she's been doing this work.
Right.
And so That's one piece.
Yeah.
The
No, I mean,
other-
it was helpful today when she did, at one point she did say, she referenced when she first started
Yeah,
a couple of times, it was just like, I didn't know how to do this, or I don't know how to do that. So you're right. I mean, it does, she's quick, because she's done it a million times. So she knows, but, I was just curious about that.
the other piece is you know your clients, right? You're the one sitting in front of your client.
Mhm.
And I don't know about the three of you, but I'm the type of person like it's all about what's in the room. And so if you're present with your client, you kind of know like, okay, they're hyperventilating. I need to shut this down.
Mhm.
Or they're hyperventilating, but this is what they typically do. And then they come right back.
Right.
Right. And
Yeah.
so leaning on yourself as far as like, okay, in this situation, what do I need to do? And so it's likely that Deb knew they're seeing red or seeing green or whatever color it is. This may be part of what happened at the time. And it's also something she commonly will say, right? Anytime they say something and maybe they loop on it, she may say, and I wonder if this is tied in, or I wonder if this happened at the time.
Mhm.
It's not to have a conversation. It's literally one of those cognitive interweaves that you're just putting out there, and then you're going with it, whether they
Okay.
answer or not.
Mhm.
But it's not something you have to do. It's just
Okay.
one of those like extra. It may be nice to do, but it doesn't break the process if you don't.
Mhm.
So I would say like, yes, is it nice to learn skills? And you'll find that there are like so many advanced trainings, which is awesome. But the key is knowing the basic steps of EMDR is the
Mm.
most important thing.
Okay.
Mhm.
So we can put on bells and whistles, clean it up, dress it up, all of that.
Mhm.
But as long as we're following that protocol, that's really what's important.
Yeah. That makes
And the
sense.
more we do it, the more we get comfortable with doing it.
Mhm.
Now, earlier I said it's okay that you haven't done DES. I would recommend doing it from here on out with the clients you're doing EMDR with,
Mhm.
just so you can know, and this is just a screening, where they are with dissociation. So
Okay.
it doesn't give you a diagnosis. It just lets you know like, oh, they're higher on the level. You may want to do an advanced scale, or they're lower. All of us have some level of dissociation. It's just what we do to stay safe and exist in the world. Like,
Yeah.
listen to me talk, you may have dissociated. That's just
Right.
a part of our life.
Yeah. And that information is more for us as the clinician than to share it with the client.
Um, it just depends. It just depends on your style and how you go about doing things, right? Like
Okay.
if my client, I mean, I make it clear that this scale is about dissociation, right? And I'm letting them know, like, okay, it appears that you utilize this resource quite often, and I'm using it as an interview style. So I'm talking to them about it. What does that mean for you? Because getting to to your job and you don't know how you got there. Well, did you just go on autopilot, or are you at the grocery store and you weren't planning on going to the grocery store? You were actually sitting in your house and you were just like, oh, and then all of a sudden you're in the grocery store.
Then you showed up at
Those
the
are two
studio, yeah.
different things, and I need to know the difference because they will be important when we're doing the work.
So just out of curiosity, like when you, if you're going to start with that with a client, what is sort of this like script? Like, do you say like, I'm looking for, if you like, I guess you must explain disassociation to them first?
Well, most of my clients are pretty well informed. Like some of them have been in therapy before and they've
Yeah.
heard the term, especially TikTok. I don't know if there's any psychological terms that people have not heard at this point. But I do
Right.
say, to some extent, all of us check out to some point. And so
Okay.
we want to do this scale. I don't know if you're supposed to tell people this DES stands for dissociation, because typically they give short acronyms, so people don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm interviewing them, we're having a conversation about it. It's pretty clear that we're accessing like how much you check in or check out.
Mhm.
And I tell them it's natural. All of us do it to some extent. And when you're
Right.
sitting in class and you're looking at the clock and the clock goes backwards, like
Yeah.
that's a form of dissociation.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
I'm normalize it, and also I'm getting curious. When they give me an answer, it's like, okay, so how does that show up for you? What does that 10 mean to you? What does that what does that 100% mean to you?
Mhm.
Because just because they say 100% doesn't mean that they really understand the question.
Right. Right. So it's also a way to get to know your client and how they
Yeah.
function. Mhm.
Yeah. Now, some people will put the DES in as part of their intake. I don't like that because it's just numbers. What does that mean?
Mhm.
And then if they potentially get activated from it, they just did the scale at home and now they're just like sitting with those feelings.
Oh, you're saying so people like send it over for
Mhm.
them to just do on their own
Exactly. Yeah.
versus doing it with them. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see why we wouldn't like that.
Because I mean, for me, I'm not a big assessment person. It's about what's underneath. What
Mhm.
is that number all about?
Mhm.
You cannot say I'm a 9 and that means all these things. What does a 9 mean? What does a 9 mean for me? Because a 9 for
Mhm.
you and a 9 for me may look exactly different.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's very helpful. No, I think that I would like to do it, just to get some practice doing it with clients and just seeing, and even just sort of excited to learn more about them as you go into the process with them, because I definitely feel that I'm getting more comfortable with, like, I feel like in the beginning it was like, okay, here's, rule follower, here's the script, and do this and do this and do that.
Yeah.
Now where I'm just like, all right, so if it takes a whole session to do that, then it takes a whole session to do that. Like,
Yes.
we'll get there. And I think part of it was not trusting, almost like that the client wasn't going to engage, because, when the client comes, they have something that they want to work on.
Mhm.
And a lot of this, the EMDR stuff before, you don't get to that for quite a while. And so,
Or do you?
well, yeah, but they don't get that. A lot of times they don't understand that because they
Okay.
just want to talk about the issue, like, well, I came to talk about, my dog, and you're asking me about whether I'm a rule follower or not, and so it's trying to help them connect a little bit. But I'm noticing as the more that I'm doing it, that, like, ironically enough, I did have someone come to talk about their dog that passed, and within like the hour, she was talking about the connection with her mom, and she didn't care that we weren't talking about the dog anymore. And I
Yes.
was more like, wow,
Yes.
like, okay, we're not talking about the dog and she's not worried. Like, she got the connection without
Right.
having to. And I think in the beginning, I was like, how are they going to feel about that?
Yeah. So I would say there's so many things we could dig into with that, Michelle. But the thing is, like, you are talking about the dog. By talking about her mom, you're talking about the dog.
Right.
And so remembering that phase 2 is not a straight line with all the phases. You can kind of weave in, weave out. And so a part of phase 2 is educating. What's the reason we're doing EMDR versus just talking about your dog?
Mm-hmm.
Because the truth is, coming in and talking about your dog doesn't make you feel better about your dog.
Right. Yeah.
And so really educating them about, like, what is the point of doing EMDR versus talk therapy? If
Mm-hmm.
you can come in for a couple of sessions, talk about your dog and you're fine, well, then let's do that. But if there's something else underneath this, if
Yeah.
you're really thinking like, I'm a bad person because my dog is dead and I should have did dot, dot, dot,
Mhm.
then potentially, likely,
That's what I'm finding. And it's
there's something
kind of
underneath
nice.
that.
It's
Mhm.
like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
working.
And so that's what Deb means by what we bring into the room, right? Because a lot of times I talk about the dancing of the answers.
Mhm.
I have my answers just as well as my clients have their answers. And my answers come and say hello just as much as theirs come and say hello.
Right.
Well, hopefully I am friends enough with my answer to say, hey, I see you. I see you right there. Go ahead and sit down for a bit. I don't need you.
Mhm.
I'm going to meet with this client. Their answers are going to pop up. You might get up and try to fight one of their answers. I just need you to sit back down. I'm okay. And if I do need you, I'll let you know. I'll bring you over.
Mhm. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. And how about for you, Dwayne?
I just have a question kind of on that. I don't know how you want these to go. Because this has actually been an interesting comment. I didn't actually see that there was a webinar. I wish I would have could. Well, I wouldn't have had time today anyways, but so this month been focusing on two things since our last time was one, just to stick it. Yeah, how did you put it? Here, I have my
Stick the
note.
landing.
Stick the landing. That's what it was. Stick the landing.
I'm like, stick it.
Um,
Don't tell people I said that.
yeah, stick the landing. I should make sure I read it correctly. Stick the landing. Fewer words and breathe. And then the other one is paying attention to to how as I was doing that, I noticed I was spending less time in my own head and more time on my clients. And I've just noticed that they were a lot of them. They wanted to do EMDR, but they had no idea what an emotion was.
Mm.
And I guess the question would be, so I I know you're not going to tell me what I did was wrong. That's not what I want. That's not. I'll tell you how I handled it. And I just love any new ideas. Like brainstorming is how I love to learn. I love lots of different perspectives.
Okay.
Because I'm not necessarily questioning how I did it was wrong, because I've had some fantastic sessions with these clients, to the point that they're like, this is such a weird world of feeling an emotion. I had one mindfulness activity with she's 18, and just having her start to pay attention to breathing and notice what it's like for the ribs to go up and down. And I guess she was wearing some high pants. I she had a shirt over it, so I had no idea, but she literally like freaked out and panicked. And I was like, whoa, what's going on? She's like, I felt my rib. It got stuck on my pants. I was like, oh, okay. And we just started processing, and it's been at least 2 or 3 sessions since then that um you know that we've had lots of kind of mindfulness and kind of feeling emotion and helping her learn to deal with it. And I think next week we're going to start, but because she feels like she can handle emotion. So I guess when you see the dissociation, and I forgot about the scale, and I just pulled that up. Um, when you see that and you kind of do those cognitive interweaves, if they want to process, you're just supposed to kind of just shut it down and keep doing the finger thing, right? And just kind of let them go. Is that protocol?
Okay. So this question is extremely, extremely complex, right? Because every client is different.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm talking about grocery lists, well, talking about my grocery list is dissociation.
Mm.
And you keep me going. Boop, 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 right? Or you go back to the target. If I am talking because I am overstimulated and I need to slow this process down, then I'm going to allow more time for them to talk so they can get a little bit settled into their system. And then I'm not going to have a conversation with them. I'm just going to let them have a little bit more space than usual so they can get regrounded.
Okay.
So that we can get back into it. We're not saying regrounded where they're like not activated whatsoever, like they're completely in the frontal lobe, but regrounded in the sense of like their feet are floating above the ground and now their feet are on the ground. Okay, go with that.
So back in the window of tolerance is what you're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. And the thing is, it's so tricky because it's like one person may be looking at your session and be like, why did you let them speak so much longer? But you know, because you're in the session.
Mhm.
And so this is going to be a very nuanced thing, client by client. From what I understand, I haven't watched it yet, but PTI has a training on dissociation. And from what I hear, it's really good. So if you do want to explore a little bit more, I think
Mhm.
that one is a really good one that gives, from what I understand, some good resources for you to continue on that path. But what I will say is, if your clients do not have a tendency to dissociate
Mhm.
on a regular basis, I'm not saying it's not important, because all of us experience dissociation, but I would not uber focus on it
Mhm.
where you're missing everything else, because dissociation is only one part of the
Right.
puzzle. There's
Mhm.
so many different aspects that could pop out into the session. And if we get caught up on dissociation, we're missing a whole, someone said it where you could have the crayons where it's just like the 5 or 8 crayons, or you can have the 48 crayons, right? Like you're missing the other 47 crayons in the box.
Mhm.
Right.
Because there's
Mm.
so many ways that our clients can present. There's
Mhm.
hyper arousal, there's there's hyper arousal, there's hypo arousal. There's so many ways. They're crying, but they're still in their window of tolerance. They're doing the ugly cry,
Mhm.
but that's still in the window of tolerance. They're just emoting.
Right. Mhm. Okay, I like that. Which is actually, I'll put it over here this time. Brings me to my other question I had, which is kind of actually similar to this whole dissociation. Um, and so I have a client. Um, she had her first baby a year ago, next week actually. Wow.
Mm,
Um, and I've seen her for quite a while. A lot of depression, and right before she got pregnant, um, we were definitely on the way out. I mean, we hardly saw each other. She got pregnant, and then she had really negative experiences being pregnant.
mm,
Very, very bad morning sickness. Um, just debilitating to her. I mean, this is a woman that loves to run crazy, crazy races. I mean, she's done like 30 something marathons, wants to do an ultra marathon. For her 30th birthday, she ran 30 miles because that was fun. She and I just have a very different sense of fun. Um,
You don't want to do a
and
mile each year?
I go, no, not now. I'd be 40. No way. Um, but she just loves this stuff. But pregnancy kicked her. I mean, she got sinus infection after sinus infection. She couldn't breathe. So it was just a very miserable experience. And lots of things that happened. And then when she gave birth, um, she nearly died uh,
Mm,
as a consequence of it. And so when we started, so I was seeing her through pregnancy, and then I started doing this EMDR, and she came back as like, look, I need to figure this out. And she read about this, wanted to try it. So we've been doing it. And we were initially doing the full protocol, but
mhm.
with the year, and we did a couple memories on that, and she says, this is working great. I can't believe how different I feel.
Nice.
Um, but about a month and a half ago, so it was right around the New Year, she started having nightmares and flashbacks as she was getting closer to her daughter's uh, birth, and she wanted to try and just reprocess the pregnancy. Um,
Mm,
and and I kind of went over, the protocol, the idea between the two that's in the handbook and in the things. I said, it's
Are
totally up to
you talking
you.
about EMD or EMD small r?
The small r, little r. and kind of the doing the EMD R, and said, look, the big protocol says I start here because these underlying experiences from your past are erupting now, doing that whole whatever you call it, talk on that. And she's like, Dwayne, if I could just get rid of this, because I want my daughter's birthday, I don't want to be, triggered by that. And I was like, okay. So, trying to go with what she was ready to do, I read up on the EMD little r, small r, whatever we call it. I said, that's like 10 months of stuff. How do you want to break it up? What would be best for you? Talking to her, and she got pregnant in June, and then she was like June to August. There's some very distinct things that happened there. And September was its own thing, October was its own thing, and then from October to November to the birth was its own thing. I was like, okay, holy cow. So I'm holding on for dear life, thinking, because this is usually for like smaller set things, right? Like I don't know. I'm holding on for dear life. That's all I've been doing. And at first, the first couple memories, we started it, went from from June through August. She told the story. I followed the protocol. Then we started again. She's like, okay, here's the first one. And we worked through that one, and I was like, oh, good, this is working great. Went from a 9 activation on the SUD to a 2. And I was like, okay. I was like, what, about 10 passes? It's like, okay, this is working. Went to the second one, and that one took a little longer. Went to the third one, and then she just became flooded,
Mhm.
like flooded with emotion. And I was like, okay, we need to do some tapping because I know that worked for you. You got to pull back and let's, kind of right the system. I have never seen her flood like this before. And we kind of backed off on doing it a bit that day. Actually, I took your advice and had her do her own tapping
Mhm.
while doing the thing, and that helped a ton. Um, so that's kind of where I'm at. And then I saw her yesterday, and we did a lot of the tapping, and we worked through that fourth memory, but it just gets stuck. And as I said, okay, being in that stuck moment, I was like, let's back off and let's break this memory down like we did June through August. Start at the beginning, go to when it hurts, and then we started, reprocessing each individual one. And then that seemed to kind of break it up, and that went from a global one of where to put it? From a 10 when we started down to a 5. So we're moving in the right direction finally. I guess, so my big question would be, I'm trying to follow the script and also be present, and break off where I need to keep her in that window tolerance. So first question I have, as I wrote down, was the first time she flooded, she said, no, actually I skipped one flood moment. The first time she flooded was a memory that came up when she was um, giving birth. So from where the memory we were processing is about 7-8 months in the future from that point. So this was in August, and the birth was in February. An experience that happened in the ER room was like triggered and brought up in that same memory. Does that make sense? It kind of sounded weird even in my own head.
So the event that y'all are processing triggered the birth of
Yes,
her child.
triggered the birth in the future. And it's like, oh, and so we kind of, what did I do on that one? What I did was I, did some mindfulness and, I said, okay, let's try and separate those two memories in your mind and see them separate, and made it a visual thing because she's a very visual person. And I said, can you take the one with the birth and say, we'll get to you. It's going to be okay. Put it over here. And let's just deal with this one memory. And that's actually how we got through that first flooding, but it was nowhere near like the second one. The second one, she came to the thought no one would notice if I was really gone,
Mm.
which triggered some memories in the past where she was dealing with some suicidal ideations. And that brought up a whole flood of emotions.
Okay.
Uh,
So I just want to check in with you. How are you
mhm.
doing? What's coming up for you as you talk about this client and this experience?
Um, well, as usual, I always put a lot of pressure on myself to try and make sure I'm as prepared and to help deal with these things.
Mhm.
Um, there's definitely a bit of anxiety inside of me right now with her because this is the first time I've ever done this protocol.
Mm.
And so I've gone to the books. I've gone to, the scripts, and I've trying to do every preparation I can. Um, when it was going smoothly, I was like, oh, hey, look, this is easy. I like this. And then when it flooded, it's like, oh, now it's time to adapt. And so I guess the anxiety is I want to try and adapt, but not like throw the script completely out the window and the
Mhm.
protocol. I want to still learn to trust the process a little bit. I don't want to be tied to it, but not just create my own and go, four-wheeling and off into the woods and figure out my own trail. Um,
So can I point something out to you?
uh-huh.
You said, I want to learn to trust the process.
hmm
And those two things are kind of like counter to each other, right? Like trust the process and learn to trust the process.
hmm
One's feeling, one's thought. And I'm wondering as I point that out, what's coming up for you?
Um, it would probably, when I think about that, it would be, well, that's typical Dwayne. Um, I am a very, I'd probably say I'm probably overconfident individual at times.
Mm.
Like, I learned something and it's like, okay, I got it. And then I jump into it and then I start to panic. Like, wait, maybe I don't have it. Um, and so when I'm saying learn to trust the process, what's coming up to me is I told myself doing EMDR, I wasn't going to do that. Well, then I find myself doing it with this client.
And it's kind of what we encourage, right? Right? We're like,
Uh-huh.
okay, we taught you the main steps. No, here's the water, go swim.
Right. Um, and so I would say that doing EMDR, I have been more conscientious of following the protocols than anything else I've ever done in my life. Like
Nice.
even when I became a therapist, like, I remember my supervisors being like, Dwayne, what are you doing in there? I'm like, I don't know, it just felt right. And they're like, well, it's working, but you shouldn't be doing this. And I'm like, well, it's me. I'm
Yeah.
just being me. It's easy for me to do. Um, because they told me to go do something and it just never felt right. I like to make it my own thing.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess there is a bit of anxiety deviating too much, but on this one, it was like, saw her flooding, I guess. Well, did I answer your question?
Yes,
Okay, good.
you did. You answered my question.
Um,
So as far as the client, what's your
mhm.
question as
My
far as the
question
client is
would
concerned?
be, well, I guess might be easier. Here's my plan for next time. And then maybe you could kind of be like, here's some, given what I know, 5 or 6 ideas that you can try because I love that tapping idea. That was like, that's been a big one. Um, my plan for next time is to keep doing the tapping, have her do the tapping when she starts to flood. Um, she is a very cognitive person, so I've been trying to keep her from wanting to process too much versus getting into the eye movement. Because I find when I can get her right in and doing that easy, it's better. But I do know that why that's important is a big part of her problems are often come up with the way her husband reacts to her.
Mm.
Though, like every time it's flooded, it's been usually in a moment when her husband did not act in a way that made her feel loved. Um, and I mean, I know the guy, um, I've, and he's a good man. And like when he understands her, he reacts very well. And so to preempt any sort of
W-
uh long
Well, so this isn't a judgment on him or anything. This
Mhm.
is just about the session, right?
Mhm. Oh, that's true. But like well, to preempt it, I guess to preempt having a long cognitive session, last time when I had to kind of bring her down, I said, "Look, your husband's awesome. You know this. Let's not judge it too hard. To try and help create an atmosphere of forgiveness and understanding to help her start building that relationship, helping him."
I don't want to understand him. I just brought this baby into the world, and his vagina is not broken,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the thing is, she doesn't have to understand him right now. This is what her system needs.
Okay, maybe I'm doing that. That's good for me to know.
I mean, having a baby, they're like laughing at me. Having a baby is a challenging process. And I don't even know. All I know is just from my clients and from my
Mhm.
sister, from my friends, right? It's a challenging process. That's why women forget so they can do it all over again.
Right.
So I would say the biggest thing is she wants some control,
Mhm.
right? She wants to deal with what she wants to deal with, which is fine. What I would say is it sounds like this may be an EMDR process
Okay.
because there's so many things going on, and trying to do EMD small r is just she needs to pull in more things. And
Mhm.
it might be an EMD depending on the situation, right? It may be
Mhm.
we focus on this part, we really keep it tight.
Mhm.
When you're doing the EMD small r, how many sets are you doing?
Back and forth.
Yeah.
10 to well, 10 to 12 as long as I'm focused. There's a couple
Okay.
times like I get up to 30, I'm like, "Oh, that's
So
the old."
that may be times where she's flooding because we want to keep it super tight.
Mhm.
We want to keep it super tight. So keeping her really tight if you are going to do EMD
Okay.
small r,
Small R.
because and that's the same with EMD. We're not wanting their system to go anywhere.
Anywhere. Okay.
EMDR allows it to tie into here and here and here and here.
Okay.
But
Perfect.
there's just a lot going on. It's been a year, so technically it's probably consolidated at this point.
Mhm.
And she may need to experience into all of it, right? Because that
Mhm.
time tied into when I actually had the baby, that time when I was going to the bathroom and it reminded me, so all of these things. The other piece I would say is like, her husband, you are a male.
Yeah, yes, thank
There
you.
may as far as we know, sorry, I assume that, right? We may want to explore into how is this process meeting with me and talking about this, because women and their body is a challenging thing. And then not only is it my body, but then I brought a child into this world, so I should be happy about this.
Mhm.
I should be happy, but I'm miserable because this baby ruined my body. I almost died. Like there's so many identity things associated with this too. Like there's so many things going on here
Mhm.
that at this point I don't know if EMD small r is servicing this client
Mhm.
in the way it needs to be servicing her or serving her. I don't know.
No, that's
Best word.
been a little bit of my gut. And to answer, as the guy part, I can answer every single one of those questions. Um,
But
and
can you answer them up here or can you answer them for her system? Right? Like I can logically say to you, I'm okay with you being a guy.
Mhm.
But then I could, like, for example, someone sexually abused. I could say, I'm fine with having a male therapist. But then I start getting in my system. I'm like, he's a male. He might take advantage of me. What am I going to do? I don't know. I'm not safe, like,
Mhm.
so those are some things that may need to be considered in this process.
Mhm. And I've asked it in very similar ways because she's had eating disorder issues. I said, look, I've done quite a bit of work on this, but I'm a guy, and you're going to be talking about your body. Is that going to make you uncomfortable? And, we talk about how, and I'm very cognizant um, of kind of how people react, watching their body language and things like that. Since a child, I've monitored that. So I'm pretty well good at predicting that stuff. And when I asked her, well, at one point they wanted to do some sex therapy as a couple, but that didn't pan out. I said, "Are you going to be comfortable with me being your therapist, bringing your husband in, talking about this very?" She's like, "Dwayne, you know more about my body than he does." Like, oh, no, that's probably part of a problem here.
Right.
Um, and she's like, because she has a hard time talking about it, but she'll come in and tell me about her period and everything else.
Yeah.
So I think on that front, I feel pretty good about it. Even about kind of, I've heard about the vagina ripping from her. I know what
Yeah.
she experienced there. And she's like, Dwayne, I've never told anybody this stuff. It's nice to talk to somebody. So how would you go and approach it to make sure the system it's not just the cognitive piece, but paying attention to the body? Maybe I'm missing something. How would you approach that?
That's such a tough, big question, Dwayne. It really is. Because the truth is, like, one thing that I deal with is like, I haven't had a child, right?
Mhm.
And so it's like, yes, I can provide therapy for this person, but there's certain things that I just don't understand. And I can put myself in your shoes and I can, empathize, but I still think that there's sometimes things that I'm missing.
Mhm.
And so that's something that I would have to sit with and explore into. And maybe Michelle or Julie have some insights into that. But I feel like there's a lot with this case. There's a
Mhm.
lot, and it sounds like she also has her past trauma, which may be bleeding into this as well. So, Julie, Michelle, do you have any insights that you will be willing to share?
God,
Or any
Julie.
thoughts?
Okay, I'll go first. For me, I mean, I've never had a child either. And yet I can get curious with the client about what's happening for them. I don't have to come up with an identical experience with it. I can just observe and hold space for that. And because we have a map, because we have EMDR and looking at it through the lens of EMDR, get curious about how that plays out. Be mindful of where the answer's coming up, right? And perhaps using that as a way to reassure myself that I don't have to have all the answers. In fact, I don't. The client has the answers for themselves. I'm an expert on EMDR. They're an expert on themselves. Right. And so that takes some of the pressure off of me because I hear you putting so much pressure on yourself. Right. I'm just, maybe I should have said that more mindfully, but I'm wondering if you're putting,
No, you're not wrong.
I'm feeling, right, that pressure.
Yes, thank you, Lisa. I'm feeling that pressure as you're processing through this and wanting to do such an amazing work with her, right? So those are the things that are coming to me as I listen to you walk through this, process through this.
That's some great insight, Julie.
Thank you.
How about for you, Michelle?
I think what What comes to mind is definitely what Julie said. I mean, getting to know Dwayne a little bit, I know he always wants to do an amazing job, and I think that you do. What I'm noticing, or what's coming up for me, is the connection that the client has with you.
Mhm.
It seems to be extremely intimate. She's sharing a lot of information, so I think she feels very comfortable, very connected, very trusting. And for me, I'm wondering what that experience is like for you, having somebody so reliant on you, so intimate with you, and then also asking for help with some of those connections. That's what's kind of coming up for me, is that there may be an underneath somewhere this almost like a discomfort, not really settled with the way that connection is becoming so intertwined. And now she's also asking, you like to, the way that you come off is like, you like to do it well, you want to do everything right. And now she's kind of saying, I want to do it this way.
Yeah.
So it's like, I've shared all this, I'm trusting you, I really like you, you've helped me, but just so you know, I want it done this way. And so I'm just wondering how that plays out in all of this.
Yeah.
Those are good questions. Yes, there's a lot of pressure on me because I don't like failing, I guess is probably a good word. Like I take it very sacredly when anybody comes to me for anything. And then with this client, it's like, how is it like when they share a lot of this? It shocks me. In the phase 7, when we do the, thank you, I want to thank you for your work. Like the thing that I always tell my clients is, I can't believe you share this stuff with me. Some stranger, and you're willing to go through this ugly with me. And but we'll get to the part where it's not ugly, and you're doing good work. You should be proud of yourself. Is kind of how I say it, because it just blows my mind what people will tell me. And does it make me uncomfortable thinking about it the way she said it? Probably, because I've never been too open with a lot of people. The only person I've ever been, well, as a teen, I was court ordered to therapy all the time, and I lied to those guys all the time. And so, no, I was never open with them. The only person I ever really did that with was my wife, and it's still my wife. I shouldn't put her in past tense. Um, uh, is, and to me, that's, so the fact that people would come and talk to me, that's shocking.
Mm.
Um, uh, and so I think because it's shocking, I think I take it that much more serious and put a lot more pressure on me,
Mm.
um, to hold it sacred and to do a good job with it. And then what was the last question you asked, Michelle? That was a good question.
I don't remember asking a question. I thought I was making
Uh,
more. Oh, I think I said,
Processing.
like, how you might feel about this connection, and also the having her tell you, like, I want it done this way.
Mhm.
Oh, how she wanted to.
She's kind of dictating it a little bit, or at least asking to.
Absolutely. How I'm comfortable going that way. I was uncomfortable because it's a process I didn't know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If it was like cognitive behavioral therapy, like, hey, Dwayne, let's change how we're approaching this, I could totally do that, and without any hesitation or concern, because I understand that methodology, that framework pretty well.
So can I share
Mhm.
an insight that's coming up for me? Because honestly, I was kind of like a little blocked, and hearing y'all say this kind of unblocked some things. Because it may have been also what I was experiencing, like the pressure. But then
Mhm.
another thing that pops up to me as I hear, especially you responding, Dwayne, is like, maybe there's this parallel process between the two of you, right? Where
Mm,
I have to work so hard and she has to get over this before her child's birthday. Ooh, that's
yes.
tough. You only give yourself like a month and a half
Mm-hmm.
to get over whatever you're feeling. That's a really short window for something that happened for over a year.
Right.
So it just seems like there's a lot in this because it's not just what happened in that year, it's also
Mhm.
the triggers that are happening too. Like there's so many
Right.
factors, and then the fact that you're looking at this child in front of you. So there's just seems like there's a parallel process with the two of you. And so I'm wondering if you can be with that in yourself so that she can be with it in y'all session. Like, it's okay if you don't have all of this figured out by your child's first birthday. And you know what? It's okay if you screw up as a parent. Because the truth is, I always tell my clients, if your child ends up in therapy, that means you've done a great job. Right?
Gonna remember that.
So that I feel like this was a good team effort on all of our parts. Woo, let's go
Yeah.
team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it sounds like you have a lot of things to pull from, which is
Mm-hmm.
what you asked for, right? And so
Yes.
utilizing that however you will.
No, and I appreciate you guys' feedback. That gave me lots to think about, and I appreciate that.
Awesome. So we are over the hour. So is it okay if we take want to do a 5-minute break? Are you all okay with 5-minute break?
Yeah, 5
Okay.
minutes is
Okay.
fine.
All right. Well, then I will see y'all soon.
See you
Okay.
soon.
So do you feel like all your questions were answered for today?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Not sure where this ray of light is coming from.
Do you have a
You see
window?
that?
Do you have a window?
Yeah,
effect?
there's like a skylight. I guess that's where it's coming from. I'm like, whoa, okay.
It's the heavens opening up.
I
to
know,
you.
that's what it feels like. I'm like,
Ah.
okay. Oh wait, there we go. Okay. Just turn it a little bit.
My computer in.
Sorry, guys.
That's okay. And so did you want me to help you with track of time, or you think you're good on that,
You're asking me?
Julie?
Um,
Yeah.
remind me of the structure, the time structure. Can you hear me?
Yeah, so typically we split it into two for the
Okay.
two different individuals.
17.
And we probably want to leave about 5-10 minutes at the end if possible.
Okay. Good question. Why don't will you track time?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Okay. So if I'm understanding this correctly, Lisa, and maybe I'm not, the the feedback is for the video, their practice videos? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So again, and the last time we played some of the video, is that accurate?
Yes, they're gonna play the videos.
Okay. All right. All right. And then, so we'll go into watching some of the video, and then I'll give them feedback. I'll give like either Michelle or Dwayne, who's ever goes first, and then we'll split them the time, and then the other Michelle. Does that make sense? Am I asking? You're looking at me like, what the hell are you talking about, Julie?
No, it totally makes sense.
Okay, Lisa, are you frozen? Lisa's frozen. That's why she's looking at me like that.
Oh, yes, she is. I didn't even realize.
I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I saying wrong? I can't hear you, Dwayne.
Can you hear me now? That
Okay.
sounded better.
Oh, now we
Okay.
can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, good.
We lost Lisa.
Technical difficulty.
Yes, we actually lost Lisa. I'm glad I was not reading that the way I mean, I was reading. No, Lisa knows that
Oh,
she
wait.
got lost. Up. Hang on.
So she's probably logging off and trying to log back in, I would assume, to make it work.
Oh, what the hell? Oh, Jesus.
Oh my.
That's what happens when I study. I don't know where Lisa went. That was our session from last time.
Oh, cool.
This guy, what you guys
Oh,
just,
Lisa's trying to come back on now.
I'm the co-host. I know I'm the co-host. Okay.
Michelle, are you guys going to come into Salt Lake randomly while we wait for Lisa, I guess?
I'm hoping to, yeah. His birthday's in April, so I'm gonna let him know then, and if he wants to, yeah, I think
You
it'll be
should let me
fun.
know.
Yeah,
You're coming up
absolutely.
here.
Yeah. Do you know that place, the Palace? You probably do, I
Mhm.
would assume, right?
Lisa's
Yeah,
back.
it's
Oops,
where the Jazz used to play.
Oh, okay. That's awesome.
Lisa, can you hear us?
I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, we're still recording. Oh, all of that was on the recording. Great.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. That's okay.
Holy moly. All right. So
I thought we were watching the video.
we lost you, right?
You
I
froze.
do. I
Yeah,
do. That's why
you're not-
I got on my phone. My computer is still sitting on here.
Okay.
Oh, wow, okay.
Oh God.
All right.
All right. So do I share the video with you guys? Or do they? Okay.
No, they share the video.
Okay, so you need me to do that, right?
Who do you want to see first, Julie?
Why don't we go with Dwayne first? How's that?
Okay, me as therapist or me as
Whoever wants to go first.
I'm sorry.
It's all
I'll
in
go
you.
first. I'll see. I'm trying to play it right now actually for you. Let me
Yeah,
see
that's
what I'm
funny.
doing
I,
wrong.
I brought it up on my thing, but it's not.
It's not pulling up my. Let me try it again. I was doing this earlier. I tried to be all prepared.
I know, me too. I have it pulled up, but then when I share the screen, it's not there.
Yeah, let's try it one more
So
time.
do you see the picture?
Nope. Although, you know what? I guess I have to pull it. I have to make it more current on my other screen, I guess. Hold on. All right, here's one. All right, let me try this. Hold on. Share screen. How about that?
You got it.
Does that work?
Yep.
I don't know where anything is right
We
now,
can't
but
see the video though. We just see the top of your screen and then we see video, but we don't actually see there it is.
you have it?
It sounds like we got some other feedback coming through. That's not us talking.
You hear someone talking? What are they saying?
We
You
don't
guys can't hear
hear it.
me? Oh my gosh, I got some weird. This is funny.
This is weird. Okay.
All right, and then you can try playing it like that, or you may want to actually open it up so it's taking up the full screen and not just
Let's
the
see what
box.
happens if I play it. Does that work?
Okay, it does.
Got it. There we
All
go.
right.
Okay. Good thing we checked.
Good thing. Yeah, it would have been terrible for you. um, so today, what I would like to be doing is kind of moving toward the kind of the root of the problem. But before we get to that, I'd like to kind of practice kind of the dynamics of what EMDR is all about. And so what we'd like to do is practice the eye movements, and I'm going to do it on that screen we were showing you. And then, but I want to kind of start out fast and slow down if needed. We want it to be as fast as you can tolerate. You do not need to try hard to focus on the dot. It is just a way to help you move your eyes back and forth. So I want to move it fast and tell me if this is going too fast, and I can slow it down and tell me when it feels comfortable.
No, that's good.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just write my speed down so I know where to keep it. Oh, well, this one's gonna have to be interesting. I'm gonna have to do this one with my finger, because I haven't purchased the program yet. But there are times when a change in direction can be useful. So would it be okay if we practice diagonal movements with my finger right now?
Absolutely.
All right. So I'm gonna do it with my head kind of on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
And then so sometimes we'll start low and we'll go high. Is this too fast?
No, that's perfect.
And then sometimes we'll start high and go low. Does that feel good?
It feels good. Yep.
Would you prefer my face to be on the screen or completely off the screen? Like
I honestly, it doesn't matter to me, really.
doesn't matter to you?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, it feels fine either way.
Feels fine either way. Perfect. There are times when it can be useful to switch from eye movements to tapping. Would you like to practice tapping on yourself? There are several options. First, you can kind of cross your arms and, oh, I gotta take off my coat. The heater broke and it's kind of cold. But here we go. It's gonna be a lot easier this way. Cross our arms. And you can type either on your shoulders in this area right here, and you're going to do one at a time. So be one. Kind of aim for about 1 a second.
Mm-hmm.
Or the other option, some people like to kind of give themselves a scoop back so you can see a bit of a hug, and they tap on the side of their arms.
Mm-hmm.
Or other options, some people like to tap on their legs, on the top of their legs.
Mhm.
Would any of those work for you? Which ones feels best to you?
Probably the fingers.
The fingers, but I mean, as far as tapping goes.
Oh, as far as the tapping, I would probably say either, probably here.
Right there? Okay,
Mhm.
perfect. Another possible option is for me to tap on my desk or knees in a way that you can hear and see it.
Okay.
How do you see my knees? But I could kind of drop my screen down and show you. So I'd kind of tap like this. And that sound,
Mhm.
can you hear that?
I can hear it. Yeah.
Um, or you could, um, I could scoop way back and bring it way up here like this.
Mhm.
Would either one of those be better for you than you tapping on your arms?
I think the arms is fine. If we had to choose one, I would say you further back.
Okay, perfect. That's good for me to know.
Okay.
Just writing a few notes to make sure I remember this.
Okay.
So the EMDR process is intended to bring balance to your system. I will be asking you some questions with the intention of helping you define the root of your presenting issue. As we have discussed, some disturbing experiences become stored in your system with the original images, sounds, thoughts, emotions, and body sensations. When these memories are activated, it may present in the present, it may feel like an overreaction, but it is just the inadequately processed memories that are being activated. As you go through this process, the best thing you can do is notice your experience and give honest feedback. You do not need to try to do anything. I will do the eye movements for a while and then stop and ask you what you are noticing. At that time, you can just give me a snapshot of what you were experiencing. I do not need to know everything that you experience. Whatever you experience is okay. Do you have any questions?
No.
Perfect. Some people like to use a metaphor of watching the experience go by, like looking out the window of a train or watching a video on the screen. Would one of these be useful to you?
I would say a video on the screen or like a movie.
Excellent. If you would like to stop at any time, it is okay. Would you like to just kind of raise your hand or make kind of a timeout signal just to let me know?
Yeah, I would probably do one of those and probably say stop.
Okay, perfect. So what I want to begin with is I want to identify 3 issues or problems that, if were resolved, will make a significant difference in your life. Try to find something that's fairly persistent that kind of recycles itself
Mhm.
as these issues. And then we'll kind of go from there and start digging toward the root memory, if that's okay with you.
That's fine with me.
All right. So is there a current issue or problem that you are dealing with that, if it was resolved, would make a significant difference in your life? And just a reminder real quick before we get there, I'm going to be writing down
Mhm.
just so I can keep track of thoughts.
Okay.
So,
I would say that if what keeps recycling for me is if I lived back where I was, I would make a total difference in my life if I wasn't living where I'm living.
okay. So if you were living where you're living, it would make a total difference in your life? A better
Yeah, if I was living back where I wanted to live, it would make a total difference.
totally. And how is this something that you were good at doing? Is this kind of like the regret? Let me just make sure I understand. Is it kind of like a regret? The,
No, it's not a regret. It was a forced situation.
okay.
I had to live here. So it was forced.
Okay. So how is this change, something that you're good at doing?
I would say that it's probably good at what I'm, because that's a good question. Probably because I'm used to having to just deal. Used to being, even though my life is very full and wonderful, there are a lot of hard roads that I've had to face. So I'm used to, putting on my big girl panties and like, okay, here we go. Just got to do it.
So you find strength. You're strengthened through.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what is the relational longing? What do you want that you're not getting?
Achievement.
Perfect. What is another current issue or problem that if were resolved?
And if you can go ahead and skip this part, maybe going down to the getting to the root and the answer.
Okay. There is a second video, so I don't know if
Yeah.
it's in this video or. Let's see.
Remember,
I think I might.
this emotion. Feeling similar to this.
I think it's on the second video.
Yeah.
You think it's on the second one, Dwayne?
Yeah, the getting to the root, right? I think I had
I
it.
think so.
Where'd I put it? I got full screen here. How do I get out of full screen? Oh, there we
Okay, so
are.
this is that the second video? Can you guys see that?
Yes, I can see it.
Yes.
All right, so let me try.
Perfect. Well, Michelle, last time we weren't able to totally finish this, so I thought we'd just kind of
So you're gonna probably want to fast forward a few seconds, I
jump back
think.
in where we were, and
That I'm not good at anything. I'm not going to be able to make it. And so ironically enough, that's how I am where I am today, because I felt that the best thing that I was good at was being a friend. And so I was too afraid to do the other careers. They seemed so scary to me. Too much work, too scary, and eventually it led me here. But I do remember sitting there. I was very popular at that time, and feeling like, I wonder if people know that I'm not feeling, great. I'm not wonderful. I can't do this. So it was like a cop out. Like, oh, well, I'm a good friend. I'll figure out what to do with that.
got you. Perfect. Just making a few notes.
Mm-hmm.
Was there an earlier time that you might have felt this same emotion?
Yeah, no, not that was the one that came up that I said, oh, if he asks, I should probably mention that one.
Perfect. All right. So now what I'd like for us to do is to look at each of these present triggers, kind of what happened, these social experience that we've kind of talked about, the work socially and with your closest relationships, and kind of decide how would you like to have reacted in those situations.
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay with you?
Mm-hmm.
So as you think
Go ahead
about
and pause.
situation and something,
It sounds like we skipped over the getting to the root of the answer.
We got that last part. If we go back about, I don't know, a couple minutes, because that last part was it, the last memory of it.
Right. But that just sounded like one memory.
Right. Let's see if we go
Yeah,
back.
there were plenty more, a few more. The other careers, they seem so.
When you were 11 or 12, also, you believe this. Express the negative belief you have about yourself now, even though you may know better.
Can we scoot back a little bit more?
You're a fake. You're
Sure.
not good enough. How disturbing does it feel right now on a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is
Sorry,
noticed
even a little bit more.
You got it.
because I'm not. It's not all settled by now. Not where I thought it would be. So just kind of a check-in question for me as I'm checking in with you and reviewing all this.
Mm-hmm.
When we kind of think about taking on that new job, that recent trip with friends, and even that visit with your dad a little over a week ago, how disturbing does it feel right now on a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is no disturbance and 10 is the highest disturbance possible?
I'd probably say more of a 6 because I'm not really, we're not discussing it right now, so I'm not feeling it as much.
Perfect. No, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure, see how things were to kind of scale it with myself.
Mm-hmm.
And when we brought up the worst part of that disturbance, I asked what words express the negative belief you have about yourself now, even though you may know better. And you said kind of, you're a fake, you're not good enough, you didn't make it, were kind of the words that came to your head.
Mm-hmm.
Do those words still kind of resonate a little bit?
Yeah, they do.
Okay. So then we kind of went back through the memories of about age roughly 35 when you went through that divorce.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of felt something similar. And then around 11 to 12 years
Oh, I
old,
guess it was the other memory. The other
your
one.
parents gave you that $50 and your mom got upset.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go
And
ahead and
then,
stop sharing.
when you were
Stop sharing.
And then
Sorry,
Julie,
Michelle. I thought it was on this one that we did that whole thing.
I'm so confused.
you're on mute, Julie.
Sorry, they were doing lawn work outside my window, so I didn't want that to disturb everybody. So hang on. I gotta get refocused. So I'm wondering for you, Dwayne, as you're kind of watching it now, you're observing, what are you noticing about your process? What's coming up for you?
First, it kind of felt. I noticed that I was actually a little bit more nervous than I thought I was doing it. I
Mm.
sounded nervous, and I wonder if that's always
Hmm.
me. I kind of felt. Yeah, I think nervous was it. I don't know. Yeah, I guess that's probably the best word for it.
Okay. So there was like this nervousness, and in that nervous, like, what are you telling yourself? Where is that nervousness taking you?
And Julie, at this point, you're giving him feedback on the video itself.
Oh, hello. I'll get this, guys.
You're doing great.
You're rescuing me. What I noticed is that even though, it sounded like, again, that pressure that you put on yourself, it looks like, that you understand the concept of getting to the root, that you're able to follow the script in a way that sounds very natural for you, even though it's a fairly new concept for you. That while you're processing this with Michelle, you're also really attuning to her, right? You're just able to kind of check in and validate and yet still stay to the script. So I think that is going to really aid your work with the EMDR, that you can like hold this sense of following a protocol, but it's at the same time staying connected with the person that you are working with. And again, like it's at least, it's a fairly new concept, a fairly new way of working with somebody. So kind of getting underneath what the presenting issue is and being able to hone in on that and take it from that vantage point, you were able to demonstrate that, right? So
Thank you.
you're welcome. And I think, and again, this is just my kind of observation, that the pressure that you do put on yourself, that pressure to make sure you get it right. It sounds like that may be really cause some difficulty for you. Is that
Yeah, I think it's fair to say.
okay? But it does sound like you're getting the concept. You did get to the root, and that for all intents and purposes, you're doing it, right? So that's what I'm observing. That's what I'm noticing.
Well, thank you. I think the hard part is most of the script, especially that beginning part of the script, I think is harder for me because I only have a couple, 3 or 4 that I do teletherapy on. Most everybody wants to be in person, so it's a little bit different, like especially that tapping part.
The mechanics of it, yeah.
Yeah, the mechanics of tapping, in person, I offer them the opportunity to do it on themselves or, allow me to tap on their knees. That's where they like it. Every one of them does. So I kind of fumble around with that because that's not something I have to adapt the script to my own self there.
Okay.
But I appreciate that. What would you say I could improve on? I'm curious.
Well, I mean, I guess I was trying to say that in a way that when that pressure that you put on yourself, I mean, I feel it.
Oh, do you?
And
Oh,
so
that's good for me now.
but then my concern is if I say that to you, you're going to put pressure on yourself to not feel pressure. Like, what do you do with that, right?
Right.
And so that's why I really wanted to emphasize it. To me, it looks like you know what you're doing. You're and it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to go off script a little bit and go, wait, that didn't work, because as you find your own kind of balance with this, it's going to settle in.
I'm gonna
Right?
write that down if you're okay with that.
Whatever.
I like that.
So that's why I hesitated to say that, because you are like, there is so much pressure that I think as you get more and more familiar and comfortable with being able to kind of process through it this way and find the root, it's going to feel more natural for you. But I mean, that's and the things that you already know, that sometimes less is more. Right.
Yeah, and so to kind of reiterate what it sounds like Julie is saying is, what do you need in those moments when you're giving yourself that pressure?
Give myself permission to not. That's why I wrote down that it's okay to go off script. I felt like it's okay to make mistakes. That's what I think what I'm going to focus on this time. And I think it would be just, I don't know. I have to think through that one a little more.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
Michelle, you ready?
Yeah, let's see if I can figure this out. This one up. And screen. There. Okay. Right. So hi, Dwayne. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good, good. It's good to see you again. I just wanted to thank you for answering all the questions last week. I know that it can be a little vulnerable at times, but today what I'd like to work on is maybe getting to the root of what some of those answers, where they came from. But before I do that, I wanted to practice some of the mechanics of what we're going to be doing and practice some of the eye
Can we
movements
go ahead and
Yeah,
skip over
yeah.
the
to
mechanics?
feel a little bit more
Yeah.
comfortable.
Into the meat.
So finding the true experiential root of the current dysfunction is an important aspect of
My life, I probably would say there's 4 or 5 people that I trust completely. Maybe. But I think some of that's also because I don't feel capable of trusting. I'm afraid of letting go. That might be part of what it is.
Okay.
And then I guess I kind of covered the other one too. Just the idea of I want to feel that have the capacity to trust people, because I don't think everybody's bad. I just need to let go. Maybe I'm a control freak. Maybe that's what it is.
Bingo.
Ta-da! Solved it.
No, I think that's, very insightful about the trust thing, that saying you want to trust is a great thing, but to recognize that there's a discomfort there, so if you want to be able to trust, that's one thing. But if you're not comfortable doing it, then there's always going to be a challenge there to be able to do that.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And so when you think about that, you did say that there are 4 or 5 people in your life that you can trust. So I'm happy that you do have that. But can you think about a recent time where you did have a glimmer of hope, or like oh my gosh, I think I can trust this person, and it didn't work out?
Absolutely. Exact date, I can't tell you exactly, but it was a few months back when I went to, well, it started 2 years ago, I guess. When I was here, I was like, hey guys, I'm getting overwhelmed. So I went to my administration.
Okay.
And I left that meeting feeling, when I went to that first one with the administration, telling Sarah, my wife, that, you know what, I think this is going to work out. They're going to get some help and I can handle this.
Okay.
And then so that meeting, that didn't work out. Then 9-ish months ago, maybe a year ago, I don't know, I finally said, I can't do this anymore. And told them, look, let's just let me separate this. I'll do this on my own, because I feel like I'm not getting help. And that specific one too, I left. They're like, well, what do we need to do to keep you? And I told them really help. And then they offered a pretty big pay raise, because I think money's why I'm into this, but I don't know.
They think that, or you think that?
They think that.
They think
money
that.
is not my motivation.
Right, yeah, I didn't hear you.
Fun.
I need to make sure. I wanna make
Like,
sure.
So I was like, fine, put that there, but like what I really want is help. Like time is the variable in any equation that I care about,
Yeah,
because it's my time I want to be with my kids, my time I want to be with Sarah.
right.
That's the only equation I care about, not money. Outcome, if I want money, I find it. I know how to work it. I know how to get it.
Yeah, I think
but,
I remember you answering that in your questions. Remember, you had said, you would love more time with your kids and your wife.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's my core thing. It's like I love them. I only have a few years, 8, but that goes fast with my oldest till she's an adult. Actually 7 now. Wow. It just goes too fast. So I guess that I left that meeting feeling like it, but I guess the hardest part was October, when I was on the cruise with Sarah, when I finally was like, you know what, Sarah, it's time for us to just fully separate. And at that point, it was like, I felt the real gut we were walking around the deck, and it was like, I just can't do this anymore. And I felt like they broke my trust. I've given them everything I could, and this is why I don't trust people. This is why I do it on my own, because it gets done in the way I need it to get done.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. So I'm just going to ask you some questions about, I know you've already offered some specific examples, and so if it's the same example, that's fine.
Okay.
But just, that feeling of wanting to trust, wanting to feel a little bit more relaxed, like you can just let go. And even maybe if you were able to let go, like we said, using that word that you liked, feel a little bit softer, because you were able to let go. Is the time that you just explained to me, is that the last time you wanted to experience that at work or in your community?
I guess there's a more recent one when
Okay.
they decided to bring in a different therapy practice. That she could just put that there. When I learned that they brought in the different therapy group to try and compete with me
Okay.
instead of working with me. Yeah.
Okay. And when was the last time that you wanted or experienced this wanting to be able to trust socially or with friends?
Oh. I mean, this is gonna sound bad, but I guess wanting to trust socially or with friends. This is gonna sound funny to tell you the state of my life and what I do. Sarah and I just barely went on a fun date with some old friends from grad school. Just getting married. It's been like 12 years since I've done anything with friends like that. Like, it's always with my family. I can't honestly think of one.
Okay.
Because my life is my family. I mean, that's
Yeah.
really what it comes down to.
Which can be your friends too, just in a different way, right?
I mean, if you're gonna put with siblings, God, there's all the time I could go with those ones.
Well, the next question is about the close relationship, so that's up to you. You want to? Yeah.
All right, guys.
I mean, honestly, like,
Let's stop the video for a sec. This is going, I appreciate what I've seen so far, and I did get a chance to watch this prior to this session, so I kind of have a sense of your work. So I wanted to use some time to give you some feedback, Michelle. Again, your ability to kind of tune in to Dwayne and be present with him is beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful. Being mindful of, switching ways of working with clients to where we want, as we find the root, we just want snippets. We don't, again, less is more. If we can even, I don't know if it's in this actual script or not. I don't have the scripts memorized, but ask them just like this title, this moment in time that represents that. Because that obviously that's later on what we're going to be using as the target once we've already processed all the past memories and traumas. So I think, you're going to be kind of building rapport and things like that with new clients. So you may not want to cut them off and be like rigid about it. But at the same time, once they get into processing, you're going to see a lot more healing happening. And so trying to fight, I don't know if that's the best word to use with this, but trying to be mindful of, we just want a moment in time. We kind of want to capture the experience of it so that we can move on and get to the touchstone memory. And then obviously then start the phase, the phase 3. So other than that, I mean, you're doing a beautiful job. And those are the things that just take some time to get used to, right? Because we want to engage and we want to kind of have this dialogue and get to know them better and things like that. But in some ways that holds us back from the healing work that EMDR can do. And so that's the majority of what I noticed. So can I invite anybody to add something, Lisa, or is there?
Michelle, do you have any insights you want to share?
I just want to make sure I'm clear. So you're saying just to be a little bit more like less communicative?
Maybe a little bit more directive and specific.
Okay.
There, we may have like an urge to explore some things and kind of, well, that's interesting, you know, things like that, add some commentary to it. And I'm just being mindful that could in some ways really slow down the process.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to kind of reiterate what Julie's saying, in particular, when he's talking about the recent event, he spent quite a bit of time talking about it, right? And so when people talk, they're in their frontal lobe, and we want to get them in their limbic system just a little bit. We don't want to completely activate them because we're not in phase 3 yet. But if we're not activated, then our memories are going to just be super logical. They're not going to have any extra meat to them. I like to get into food when I start talking about processing for some reason. I think y'all might be used to that. I think I was talking about meat and potatoes and all of that. All right. Awesome, Julie. Give me the feedback.
Thank you. Sorry it was so choppy in the beginning, guys. It just took me a while to get my bearings.
You did great. Thank you.
Yeah, we're all learning.
And so our next date is March 14th.
Mhm.
Oh, and happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Happy
I didn't even say that at the
Valentine's
beginning.
Day.
And so for your homework, how early did y'all get? Because I didn't hear that part. How early did y'all get as far as the memories?
Let me, I have it written down right here on her age. I know I pulled it out.
Yeah. Let's see.
I know it was within the range that we look for. Oh, wrong, Michelle.
So was it about 7?
No, I think it was younger than that. For Dwayne, it was we got to 4 or 5 years old.
Okay, great.
And for Michelle, go back to that page. Oh, here it is. I got, oh no, you gave me to 11 and 12. I was going to ask about that today too.
Okay.
Um,
So it sounds like
Yes.
you have a sense that there's something earlier.
well, because I got to 11 and 12 on the first video, which you didn't, well, you might have seen. And then the second video, I came back to ask again if there was anything earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And she gave a second memory, but it was the same range.
Okay.
Yeah,
Same
because
time
I
frame.
didn't remember when it was. It might have been earlier, but I don't know. Like,
But yeah.
Okay.
I can picture where I was. I'm trying to picture what grade that was. So it was like I knew it was before that, but I didn't know exactly. I'm not really good
Okay.
with the dates and.
So you may want to ask if there's a sense of anything earlier, or
Okay.
maybe using an affect scan if you feel like that would be beneficial. But as far as the homework is to go into phase 3 and 4 and forward. It sounds like y'all already did the future template information or future desired state.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. Sounds good. So I look forward to seeing you all next time.
Okay.
Okay.
Guys.
All
right.
Awesome.
Take care.
Awesome. And
Okay.
Michelle will text and we'll figure out
Yeah,
a time to get
absolutely.
together.
We'll figure out the next time. Yeah. Thank you. Have a great night,
All right.
everybody.
You
See
too.
ya.
Take
All
care.
right. Bye.
Bye.
So did you want to meet for a little bit, or are you feeling?
Yeah,
How you
just
feeling?
for a few minutes. Is that okay?
Yes.
Thank you, Lisa. I was obviously not tracking.
Okay.
I don't
What
know.
was happening for you?
I think I was just confusing my first experience with giving feedback and the second experience of giving feedback. Is like one was like a more mindful observation.
Yes.
And so, and I think some of the technical, like having to fast forward, is like, oh my God, what the, so, and I sound like I'm making an excuse, and maybe I am, but
This is all a learning process. They told you, they said we're all learning, right?
they're so sweet. I mean, I couldn't ask for, anyway. So yeah.
So what's going on for you? What's happening here?
Want to do better. And I hate even sounding like that, but yeah.
You're doing such a good job. This is overwhelming. It's new for your system. And that pressure you were talking about with Dwayne, I have a feeling that you may share in that with him, right?
Yeah. It's gonna take me a while to.
Honestly, I give you kudos for watching in advance because I don't watch the video. And if you wouldn't have, you probably wouldn't have much feedback to give them, right? Because they will skip to the next one. And I was like, are you sure we need to be in the next one? Because it seems like it's in this one, you know? And so those things will happen. You had some great feedback to give them. I will say that a lot of people don't necessarily send their videos in advance. I mean, they may send it like right before or something. And so
Yeah,
you
so
might
you
not
have
have
the
enough
opportunity.
time. Exactly. But it's awesome that you did watch it. So then that gave you that time to be like, here's the feedback I have for you.
Okay. And that's the kind of feedback in the second half that is the way I did it. Was that
It was.
is there more?
So I think it was great. I just think that there's some like you said, some tweaking that could happen. So I'm wondering, I know last time you said you felt overwhelmed. Do you want feedback now or do you want
Yeah, I've got, and I should have given myself more time, but I don't know. I'll get used to this by the time it's all done. I've got a 4:15 client.
Yeah.
Gave myself a little bit of time, but not enough. So yeah, so more specific.
Yeah. So you when it comes to the participant or the consultees, you want to be clear as like landing. What did you do well? Right? And you did a great job in that. You really emphasized, especially for Dwayne, you really emphasized here's what you did well. And then you also want to clearly say, here's some feedback as to what I feel like you could work on.
Yeah, I
right?
skirted around. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and Michelle, I think you did a better job at like speaking to what she can improve, but then she just wasn't clear exactly what you were saying.
Mhm.
And so just, just like I said with them, just landing.
Yeah.
You don't have to apologize. They came to you for feedback. So just saying, hey, you did this really well. And you could work on this. And this is just my opinion. So if you want to throw all of this out of the window, feel free. I'm not coming to your practice to tell you you did anything wrong.
Okay.
Right? So, but you did really, really great. I think the other piece is like you said, with the moving the video, they will need to do that because they won't be able to see the whole thing in the time. And I know we got shortened on time because we spent a lot of time with Dwayne's client. Because it seemed like he really needed that, and I needed that too because I was like, I feel something and I can't get out of it because it was just so heavy in the room, and I was just like having y'all share and then having him share again. I was like, oh, okay, that's why I'm having a hard time.
And our technical difficulties didn't help either. So that was
Talking about me disconnecting.
no, I mean just in general, the whole. I mean, we were having fits and starts, and the funny thing is, Lisa, your face was frozen, and I thought you were just looking at me like, "What the hell are you doing?" I didn't know it was frozen. I went, "Oh shit!"
Yeah, my whole computer, like it was still there, but it was just like circling. So I was like, okay. And that's the other thing, right? Not for you, but just in general, having options.
Yeah.
So I have my phone and I just got on my phone and I just was like able to pop in. And so things will happen.
Yeah.
And participants are usually, especially PTI participants, are really understanding. So that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, the community is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
it sound like I knew what I was talking about when I was talking about the root? Because that's the other piece I probably feel the most insecure about, is making sure I'm getting the concepts right.
Well, I don't know that you spent much time on that, right? Like you said,
There
you're
wasn't
able
sure.
to you're able to get to the root.
Right. Okay.
So I mean, everybody knows what that is. So it's not, you didn't sound like you were like, oh, I don't know what's going on.
Mhm.
And if you do feel like I would like to get more comfortable watching their videos, they probably didn't do it perfectly, but they probably did a pretty good job, right?
Yeah, and they followed the script to a T. So yeah.
Yeah. So continuing to watch those videos may help you get more and more comfortable with
Yeah.
the idea. And honestly, you have all their videos, so you could just watch their videos. They do a pretty good job of.
Good.
I mean, they were a part of one of my groups when I did the training, but
There
they
you go.
do a pretty good job of going through. So that would be a nice thing to kind of follow along with, and that may help you with the confidence booster.
Yeah, it probably will. Yeah, it will. I'll review those again. Now the consultation form, is
Mhm.
it, can you see that? Is it this one?
Yes, it's that one. So I already sent them one out for last time. So if you take the one I sent out from last time, and just take that information, put it in, like, I'm not being clear. So you look at the form, you look at the numbers that I gave them, and then you change it based off of what you saw today.
Okay, so and that's in, you sent me those, right?
Yeah, I sent it to you. I CC you to ones I
The
sent to
other,
them.
okay.
Yes, yeah, and if you could CC me to the ones you send them, that'd be great.
All right,
Well,
now
actually, and do you want to send it to me first, or are you good with sending it to them?
I'll send it to you first.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, that's just my, as far as this recording, I
Uh-huh.
put this up like I did the other one onto YouTube.
Okay.
Is that
And
what?
then, yes, and then send me the link.
Okay, like I did before.
Mhm.
I gotta remember how I did it to YouTube.
Mhm.
I sure don't remember. Okay.
You're doing a great job. The
Here.
thing you tell
Notifications of the
Dwayne,
state.
you tell Dwayne to give himself permission, and then you don't give yourself permission, right?
Kind of hypocritical. Yeah. Okay.
So I think if you're able to remember to breathe, to sit back and relax into it, then the words will come.
Thank you. I keep on waiting to be fired. I'm going, I can't be fired. I wasn't hired.
I mean, I stayed with Tyler for the whole 10 months.
It's really okay.
Yeah, I was like, I don't really know the PTI concepts that well. I mean, partially he was like, well, maybe you should stay on, and but I was already like, yeah, of course I'm gonna stay for the full time, because I needed to feel confident in doing what I want to do.
I am actually looking forward to that. I mean, I'm pretty committed. I'm very committed to learning this. And if it, like I said, Lisa, if it takes me 2 years, it takes me freaking 2 years. And I'll be retired. That's what I want to do in my retirement anyway. So
Is consultation
yeah,
nice?
my consultation is going to look like it's doing the PTI EMDR consultation. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe
Well,
doing.
you did a great work. Let me know what you want the consultation, the next one that we're gonna meet. Let me know what you want that to look like, because
Okay.
we can kind of make things wrap around the way you want to.
That's awesome. And today was yesterday. It was just so helpful. It's like everything that
Good.
all wrapped up in one. So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah.
Okay, I will work on this form, and if I have difficulties, I'll just
Let me know. Yeah. All right. Well, have a good session.
You too, and have a happy rest of your Valentine's Day.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.